Uh, so hi, today we have with us Sandra, who is from Peru, and in fact, she's joining us live from Peru. So we can take this opportunity to learn more about Peruvian culture and indigenous languages. So hi, Sandra, and welcome to today's episode of Language and Culture.
Hi, Brigitte. Hi, everyone who is willing to watch this video and learn a little bit more about Peru. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn and you get more interested in visiting, of course, my country.
Yeah, I think Peru is definitely one of the bucket list countries because it's so beautiful. And I have many questions lined up actually for you regarding Peru because I want to understand more. So, first question I want to ask is I know that Peru is home of the Inca civilization and there are many indigenous cultures and languages. So, could you give us some brief overview about the different language groups and different communities in your country?
Yeah, we have our official language is Spanish because we were a Spanish colony back in our history. But apart from that, we have 48 native languages, which is four that are located in the Andes, and the other 44 are located in the Amazon part. Of course, the ones that are in the Andes are the most spoken one because they were related to the Inca Empire that were very big. We have Quechua, for example, is well known. We share
Mhm.
this language with other countries like Bolivia, for example, but they have a different variation of Quechua. We have four in our country. We have the northern, the southern, the central, and even the Amazon part. They have a little bit of Quechua too. Some
Mhm.
people that move to that part. And then, for example, like 3 million people, I think, in Peru are native Quechua speakers.
Okay.
Then we have the other 44 Amazon languages, which is there are less speakers, but still they are like very a lot of cultures you would see around the Amazon part. And I was just reading this book for for the episode and made by in terms of the bicentennial of our independence. And the Ministry of Culture, for example, identified that we have already 37 extinct languages in all that is our history. We have already lost 37 languages.
Mhm. So, these languages they were lost during the Spanish rule. Is that so?
No, not necessarily. Some of them were from before because since we have a lot of these cultures before the Inca cultures, they are the
Mhm.
pre-Inca cultures, and they would fight. They would also like get their culture imposed in another culture, and then they would have the loss of these languages that existed. And I think even when the Inca Empire extended, a lot of these pre-Inca cultures lost their language. They just
Okay.
all the speakers were gone.
So, do you study these languages in school? So, apart from Spanish and maybe English, do you also study the native languages?
We have our intercultural schools that are basically public schools located in these areas, like where the culture is. For example, in the Amazon part, we'll have special schools for these people who are native language speakers. And maybe some in Lima, for example, that is our capital. We could have, I know we have one, but it's basically for people who come from the Amazon part. It's basically for them, but it's not for people who is from Lima. If I was born here and I want to learn it in my school, I wouldn't have the chance. Like we usually, I remember when I was at school and we will learn Peruvian history and Peruvian geography. We'll learn a lot about the Incan part, about Quechua. We would learn even some words in Quechua, but they were related to the Incan part, like that the Incas their god was the sun, so we
Hmm.
would know Inti, that it's Quechua for sun.
Okay.
We would learn these basic words related to history, but we wouldn't learn anything about the Amazon. Like when we studied about the Amazon, it was there's the rainforest, there's the Amazon River, there are species, but we wouldn't learn about the culture, the people
Okay.
who live there. I
Okay.
think nowadays that has changed. I hope so. I think schools now are more into the Amazon part. and the languages and the culture. I even worked at the Ministry of Education between 2016 and 2022. Yeah, a year. And I know that they were promoting for years now this event that is called Tincui. That's the Quechua word for meeting, where schools all around the country would have a contest, and the winners would come here to Lima and show their culture, their language, their traditions, many different things about their own. And some schools from here, from Lima, they would go to this place where there was this big event and learn about it. And they could be like games, maybe they would share food, they would have different activities so that you would get to know their culture. I think that is given like this more, I don't know, people to understand more there's existence of these cultures.
So I've heard that Bolivia, for instance, has 34 official languages. So in Peru, what is the status of these languages, the indigenous languages?
We have from these 48, for example, we have, I think that 21 that are already in danger of extinction. I mean, they're considered in different stages, but they are all considered in danger of extinction. Of course, the other ones that are not officially considered in danger of extinction, they still kind of are, because we are not promoting their use of the language so much. I mean, there is so much Spanish, and they will, even in these schools that I tell you about that are intercultural, they will learn their language, the culture, but also Spanish. So whenever these kids want to go to university, for example, they would get out of their communities, go to the city, and just speak Spanish, and they would forget about it. So we have these 21, and I was just checking the report that the Ministry of Culture did, and 5 of them have already less than 10 speakers.
Oh.
I think, yes, they're basically gonna be gone with and they are basically elders, so it's gonna be gone anytime with these elders when they die. It's just gonna be over, and they are more also in the Amazon part, and especially in Loreto. It's like the upper Amazon part close to Brazil, Colombia, this part of Peru. Yeah. These languages are basically from that part. And I think it's sad because, of course, it's not only the loss of the language, but it's the loss of a way of thinking, of a culture, because you are not only the language, but what the language wants to transmit, and their beliefs, all that they, like when you say, we don't want to have a special word for this, but what you want to say with this another word, like what they mean, there's this cosmology also, it's gonna be gone.
Yeah, I think language and culture are like always related. So if one goes away, the other is also affected.
Yes, of course. All that way of thinking is just gonna be lost. Traditions, because the youngest are not keeping that. We're not promoting from them to keep it.
Okay, so on a related note, when you speak Spanish in Peru, so is the Peruvian Spanish accent and dialect very different from the regular Spanish or other varieties of Spanish?
I think it's not so different, but especially in South America, I think most of our Spanish is similar, like it's kind of understandable. Although sometimes we say that with Chile it's very different, but that is the Chile special case because of their dialect and everything. I think it's understandable, but we do have some words that come from Quechua that we apply in Spanish. Like for example, we have choclo. It's a word that comes from choclo. I don't know how to pronounce it because I don't know Quechua. I'm sorry, but it means corn. And in Spanish from Spain and even from other countries in South America except Chile, they call it maíz. Maíz is corn in regular or around Spanish, but for us it's choclo.
Okay, so it comes from Quechua.
it comes from Quechua, and we have like a lot of this sound. Like cancha is a yard where you will play sports. You know, this
Mhm.
close yard like a football yard. We said
Mhm.
cancha, and it also comes from the Quechua cancha that relates to this kind of closed spaces.
Okay. Uh, so in different regions of Peru, because you said that the local languages affect the variety of Spanish spoken. So in different regions of Peru, like do they have a different dialect of Spanish?
We don't have so much different dialect. I know from friends who lived in the northern part that they would have, for example, sometimes a different word for the same fruit.
Mhm.
I don't remember the name now. For example, I remember guava,
Mhm.
but I don't remember the other name that was called the same fruit. What we do have is different like ways of speaking, like accents.
Okay.
Because in the northern part, for example, when you want to say something or ratify something that you said, it's um like a question. If I ask you, do you want to go play or let's go play, they would add this D at the end, like
Mhm.
vamos a jugar D. But we don't do
Okay.
that. Like in Lima or in the southern part, they usually do that. And then what I hear a lot is that we in Lima also have a special way of speaking with the sound that it's like DS and the C after, like pisco,
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
drink, our traditional
Okay.
drink pisco. In Lima, some of us wouldn't say pisco with the S, but pisco, like with the J, and
Ah, okay.
but that come from mostly from people who are traditionally born in Lima and central part of Lima. I don't know why, but it happens.
Okay.
But if you are, for example, in Lima, but your parents or you came from another region of Peru, you would speak it regularly, pisco.
Mm.
And also what I heard that it's different in our way of speaking from other countries in South America, what my friends told me is that sometimes we speak like crying.
Okay.
Like if we want to ask a favor, like we'll say por favor in Spanish and say por
Yeah.
favor, like begging for something, like crying.
Okay, so that means you have a more rhythmic intonation, like when you speak, it's like crying or like singing when you speak.
Yeah. It's I think I never realized that until I met other people from other countries in South America, of course, because they speak Spanish too. I didn't realize that, but yeah, I think we kind of do.
It's really interesting. So I forgot to ask you actually, which languages do you speak?
I speak Spanish, English, of course. I know like intermediate Portuguese, a little bit of Catalan because I'm studying in Barcelona, so I also wanted to learn Catalan. And I know just some words in Quechua and Shipibo, that is an Amazonian language. That's
Mhm.
actually the culture who did this because they are like into pottery, in
Mhm.
clothes and everything. And I work with them for at the university in some projects, and then at work in the Ministry of Education. I
Mhm.
worked with them in a project for a year as well. So I like a lot. I got to share some with them, but I didn't learn that much of the language. Although I took a course, but I
Okay.
don't remember it too much. Just a few words.
Uh-huh. So another interesting thing I wanted to ask is, since you're studying Catalan, do you think that there are some specific terms or usages which is more similar to other regional Spanish languages, like other than Castellano, like maybe similar to Galician or similar to Catalan, for instance, like in Peru? What I wanted to ask is like you since you know a bit of Catalan and you also know the standard Castellano Spanish. So, do you think that Peruvian Spanish has some features of Catalan which is different from Castellano, or do you think it's like entirely similar to Castellano?
No, I think it's really similar. Although, of course, Catalan, it's like a mix. Like to me, Catalan is a mix of Spanish, of Portuguese, and French. I
Hmm.
don't know. I
Hmm.
think it's a mix. What I do see is that in Catalan, what they have similar to us, and not in Spanish,
Hmm.
is the pronunciation of the S, of the C, sorry. Because
Uh-huh.
in Spanish, the C, they pronounce it like
Oh
like
yeah, oh
that
yeah.
they
Okay.
they
Yeah.
do that. But in
Uh-huh.
Peru we don't do it. Like for us, the S, the C, and the Z, we pronounce it as like yes. But
Okay.
in Catalan, the C they also pronounce it as an S. So that's
Okay.
similar to us, but not from their Spanish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand. Yeah. I think
It's
something unique in Spanish, right? Like the sa sound.
yeah, yeah. They just do
Yeah.
it in Spanish because nowhere in Latin America they do that.
Okay. Okay, now let's talk a bit about Peruvian culture. So, what are some misconceptions that you noticed when you talk to people from abroad, like about Peruvian culture?
um, I think I have the luck to have met people who are really interested, like you, in Peru. Like they would see the nice parts of Peru, all the rich, these rich things that we have, like our geography, our ancient cultures, our food. All these cultural things. But I know also that there's some friends have met people who are not so into that, but into, for example, insecurity, or that we are lazy. I don't know. Some of the things that you think, because I put Latin America also like in this big bag,
Mm.
that there is so much insecurity. There is, I don't know, yeah, that we are kind of lazy because we like to party a lot, or that we are very loud and annoying, disrespectful. I don't know, this kind of belief. I don't think we are that. I mean, we have a totally different way of being, and I find it funny that whenever I talk to people from India, I find that we are very similar in that matter.
Yeah.
Like we also like to share a lot, like to be very close to people, talk a lot. Of course we have our issues, but like any other country, I think we have our problems. But another thing that I know, or that I feel, a misconception, is that I have some that a friend would do, that he would confuse the Mayas with the Incas and said they are all the
Mhm.
same. This is not all the same. Inca is a totally different empire. It's in the south, and Mayas were up in the middle part of America.
Yeah.
We are different. Please don't confuse us. And then also that when some people know about Peru, there's, oh, it's the Incas, in the Incas, in the Incas. Yes, it's the Incas, but we also had some other cultures, Inca culture, that we already also have some um, things left from them. Like you will
Mhm.
see these ancient infrastructures that they were not built by the Incas, they were built by the pre-Inca cultures, but the Incas used it. And then that we have all this Amazon part that had nothing to do with the Incas ever,
Mhm.
and that they have their cosmology, their music, their food. It's very different. And I think the funniest thing that happens also to you is that when people ask you, "Oh, how's the Indian culture?" and you say, "Okay, there are many." It
Yeah,
would happen the same to us, like, "How is the Peruvian culture?" And I'm like, "Which one?" What do you want to know? If you go to the north part, you will find something. If you go to the south, if you are in Lima, it's a city, like a regular city. Or if you go to the Amazon part, you will have other cultures, and they live differently. We even have some cultures that they don't want to be reached,
yeah.
these protected cultures that they don't let people from outside come, not even like the government, no one. They are like protected
Mhm.
culture. So we have all these variations, and I think people should need to understand that as well.
So, could you explain like some of the unique traditions and cultures in Peru?
Traditions, traditional culture,
Yeah. Yeah.
traditional customs. We have, for example, the Inti Raymi Fest. It's a fest where we celebrate the sun. Like I said, the Incas believed that the god was the sun. Some people as well right now we believe it, yeah, because the sun gives us light, let the food grow and everything, like everything comes from the sun. So we have this celebration. It's in June. It's actually at the same time or most as the solstice of winter, our
Mm.
winter, like in this part, and we celebrate it. There's a big party. It usually happens in Cusco. It was the main part of the Incan part. So
Mm.
we keep that tradition.
Mm.
That's more like from the Incan part. Then we have another one that is really big. Well, we have a lot, but this other really big is Señor de los Milagros. That is like the Lord of the Miracles, would say in English.
Mm.
This image of Jesus Christ, in the cross when it was painted many years ago. I think in the 1655
Mm.
or before, but it resisted like many earthquakes. There was the earthquake of 1655 was the earthquake. Then there was another one that happened in 1687 and another in 1746, and
Mm.
it was in this church. So all of the church fell, like I
Okay.
think more than one fell, but the image resisted. It never fell.
Aha.
So we believe it's miracle and it's still there. They build the church again. So every October, we'll have a celebration the whole month. We'll have procession, a lot of mass. Some people even wear purple. It's the color of that month. Some people like make a promise that they are gonna wear this purple suit all months to get a miracle that they are asking for. And also we relate this a lot with a sweet that is called turrón. Like the
Mhm.
Spanish, they also have turrón. This is a different one. It's brown, like thicker, but also you would find, and a lot of people buy it during October. But this is a big celebration.
Mm.
The procession was for many days, very long, with a lot of people, and even the image that they carry is very big. It's not the original one because the original one is in the church,
Yeah.
but they carry this very heavy image around the streets. And this is here in Lima. They don't
Mhm.
celebrate it in other parts of Peru. And then, since I talk about Lima and Cusco, I also want to talk about the Amazon part, that they have this tradition, ayahuasca, that I think
Mm. I've heard of that.
a
Yeah.
lot of people would have heard of it. But the funny thing is that I know a lot of tourists coming and saying, oh, I want to do ayahuasca, like a funny thing, like getting high or something, but it was not originally meant for that. I mean, of course, it's a hallucinogenic plant,
Mm.
but the main thing that I know, for example, these people who practice ayahuasca, they would do it in order to find things like inside of them. They would need a time of preparation. That you wouldn't just go and do it right now. You need a
Mm.
time for preparing your mind, your body, and then they would do this. And many of them find themselves like what they call their animal. Like if in all this trip that I have, I find I don't know, a snake, for example, and they are
Okay.
also, of course, they are animals from our rainforest. You wouldn't find, I don't know, a typical animal from the Africa. No, you would find
Okay.
your animal from the rainforest. And that would be my animal and what that animal says about me. And usually, if you see also these Shipibo paintings, they are usually scenes that they see in their journeys in ayahuasca. So you will see the paintings. If you see the Shipibo paintings, they have these weird like faces of animals and
Mm.
people, and sometimes they are mixed and maybe really, really bright colors. And it's because it's all of what they saw in this journey of ayahuasca.
So it's
There,
actually,
yeah, I told you one of each region, more or less.
so ayahuasca is actually connected to the spirituality of the of the people as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's not like getting high with weed. It has a deeper meaning for us.
So, I have another question. So the question is, which country do you think is closest culturally to Peru?
Um, I think for the Andes part, it could be Bolivia, but you know they just have this part. They don't have the Amazon. They don't have the cold side. Ecuador as well. I think maybe because they do have all of this variety. And as I said, what I found interesting was to find that similarities with India because of the food, even. And like you also eat spicy food. We like spicy food. We have this very strong sense of family. I think you
Mhm.
do too. So
Mhm.
like it's normal to find similarities with South America, but I think it's more with these straight closer countries. With Chile, for example, I think we don't have that much alike because they
Mhm.
had another culture there. They have the um I don't remember the name of their ancient culture, but they would have another one. Argentina, for example, I think we don't have much in common. Paraguay, I think Bolivia, Ecuador, and maybe Colombia. We have like these more similarities.
So
Mm.
you spoke about the indigenous communities in Peru. So what are some challenges faced by those communities today?
I think especially being seen, like they are so far, and of course our geography is not. It doesn't make it easy for us, like to go to these places, and even for the government to get to these places. So they are usually left behind for educational services, for example, to get them a new school, it takes years. And even if we do, like when I speak like that because I was working at the ministry. But if even if we did get a school, maybe that school didn't wasn't the school they needed because it didn't go with their culture, with the belief, the tradition, or even with the language. Like at the beginning, sometimes there would be schools, but they would be only Spanish schools, and they wouldn't speak Spanish. They would speak their native language. So you would have to start teaching in a native language and then teach Spanish as a second language. But we
Mhm.
wouldn't do that. Or, for example, some kids they have to work in whatever work their parents have, like I don't know, with agriculture, for example,
Mhm.
but they would have because it's their tradition to go there. So they wouldn't attend the school like a kid from the city, from Lima. You wouldn't go from Monday to Friday. They would go like maybe Monday and Wednesday for some hours, and then you would have to give them homework to do. And another way of learning, like if you talk to them about, I don't know, cars, electric cars, uh,
Mhm.
they wouldn't understand it because they don't have it there, but they would understand a lot about the river, the trees, the nature. It's different. So I think that's the challenge. I mean, to be understood first and then to get to be attending in their needs. And what I told about educational services, it happens the same with health services because sometimes they don't use regular medicine like us. They have, of course, their special medicine, and we cannot force them to start taking pills because we don't know how they are going to react to that
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest challenge. And also, I think that when they come to the city, the fact of discrimination,
Mhm.
because if you see a person that is not a native Spanish speaker, sometimes they get discriminated, even if it's our native language. Like it's from our country. Spanish was not our language.
Mhm.
This was our language, but they would be discriminated sometimes, like you don't know too much, you are not from here, you're not welcome. And that also I think promotes the loss of the languages because that's why younger people don't want to learn because they don't feel that it's giving them any good.
Mhm. So do you think climate change is also affecting the communities, like maybe in the Amazon, the
Yes,
people? Mm,
yes, of course, because we have now more because of climate change, we have now like different seasons, maybe more rain, maybe less rain. The river, of course, start changing its course
mm,
faster than it would do before. Or these periods of drought,
mm,
maybe we have a longer period of drought, they wouldn't get food, they have to move from their place, find another one, get established again. Or maybe like right now we are crossing we are in the El Nino phenomenon.
mm, mm,
We are having the Nino phenomenon again this year, and a lot of rain, a lot of landslides. They are like destroying everything, destroying of
mm,
course the houses, but they are taking also the the land, of agriculture, or even the cows. Like I saw these
mm,
videos some weeks ago that like a lot of cows were taken away because of the landslide. Of course that affects them because that's what they do for a living, that's what they eat, and they have to start moving, and with
mm,
that they leave everything behind. And like I said, if they move from their places to a city where they don't speak the native language, they have to just let go of their culture. They have
mm.
to lose it because they want to get in the city and be accepted.
Yeah. So one more question, like, can you recommend some good movies or like some good songs to understand more about Peruvian culture and traditions? Like some
There
popular
is a
songs, actually.
there is a movie that I like a lot. I don't know if it's in English. I think it's in the native, in the original language only. That is called Sigo Siendo,
Mm-hmm.
like still being, and it talks about these differences. Yeah, like the coast part. It's like relating the story, our story of different stories, and different parts, like in the rainforest, in the Andes, and in Lima, and the coast, I think, but related to music. So
Mm,
they would start singing like in native. I think the first one is Shipibo, and so a Shipibo woman would be singing in Shipibo with the Shipibo sound, to the nature because they're very connected to nature. And then you would see um, quena. It's a wind instrument that they use a
mm,
lot in the Andes. They would use it. Another people would talk about the music and the tradition and how they got involved with music. And then you would see also I think they were vals criollo, or I don't know which kind of music in the coast part, but also like how was the living in this part in Lima, like in ancient Lima, how was it living in an alley, and getting the
mm,
party. And also you see the party in this part, the party in the Andes, they get together in the Amazon. So I think they talk about the culture, but according to music. That's one I like a lot. And then uh, kind of music that I would recommend, but my favorite musicians would be Lucho Quequesana, for example. It's just instrumental,
mm,
and he uses a lot of these wind instruments. It's nice. Young Marco is like more of a pop musician. He lives in Miami, so he's known in many countries.
mm,
But it's nice. Some of his music also talks a little bit about how is this feeling of being Peru, or being Peruvian, or being away from Peru. And then Eva Yon,
mm,
she's a criolla musician, Afro Peruvian as well. And she sings also these songs about traditions and food and many things, uh, to the culture, related to the culture, but she thinks about it. Mhm.
do you have something else to add?
Yes, actually, I have a friend. She's starting also podcast. You can find it in Spotify and in YouTube as well. It's called Voces Vivas, like living voices. They talk about these languages I talked to you about. They are in danger of extinction. She works a lot with these communities, and she's gonna interview these people from these cultures. So I think it's gonna be interesting if anyone wants to learn about these languages.
Yeah, I think that's a really good resource. And it was really nice talking to you, understanding more about Peruvian culture. And it's definitely a place that I want to visit.
Please do, and remember to go all around Peru so you don't miss anything.
Which are some places that you would recommend to visit in Peru?
I like, well, of course, the touristic ones, Cusco, Arequipa, Ica. If you wanna eat even better, then I know Peru is known for its cuisine, but I think in the north part you eat even better. They have a really good taste food. They're really nice. And to the Amazon, of course, I have been to Iquitos, to Pucallpa mainly. I love Pucallpa. It's
Mhm.
like in the central part, but to the Amazon. Uh, because also I think it's also because it's not so touristic right now, so you would find still some of the regular culture, not these fancy things that they do for tourists,
Mhm.
but people from there wanting just to show you their houses, their places, their traditions, or talk to you about the trees, for example. It's really amazing how they can explain their knowledge of trees and what the
Mhm.
tree is doing when growing, for example, and how it connects to the river. Yeah, you would find a lot of these things in Pucallpa.
Mhm. That sounds very interesting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for spending your time and helping us understand about Peru. And I know that there's a time difference, so thank you so much for being part of this video.